is the Emotion Connection, where you'll experience health through feeling. Explore emotion from a different perspective and learn to use your emotions to improve your day to day life. Introducing your host, speaker, author, mentor, and creator of emotional strength, Sharon Fay. Sharon heads up a successful business empowering leaders to bring about organizational development and cultural change. Get your senses ready as we delve into the many facets of emotion together. Over to Sharon.
Hello, I'm Sharon Fay. Emotion is my thing. Today's podcast is about healthy masculinity. And the structure of today's podcast is, what is masculinity? Moving from toxic masculinity to healthy masculinity. How can connecting to emotion help? And what do healthy men look like? Now, some might say this is a controversial topic. I don't see it as controversial at all. And I'm asking, in good faith, what is masculinity? And masculinity, to me, is essential for our world. It's like an energy. And you can see it at the beach when the strong young men throw each other into the waves. You can feel the vibration on the sand. It's essential for young men to hang out together and do boy things. They need the freedom to be able to speak the way they want, to kick the football or shoot some hoops. They have a particular way of being that we don't want to be shut down. When healthy young men are hanging out with each other, they thrive. It's food for their soul. This type of activity promotes healthy development. Unfortunately, at some point, masculinity got lost. Man lost his sense of masculinity. He lost his confidence, his strength. He became inadequate and wrong. Man became emasculated. I witness these examples in everyday life. Men are put down and laughed at. Men are shamed by groups of women laughing at them publicly. Women's groups laugh about man flu or happy wife, happy life. Men are accused of not being able to multitask or find things properly. They might be described by other men as pussy whipped or caught by the short and curlies or under the thumb. These descriptions imply that the man cannot make his own decisions, must check in with his partner before he can do anything. You may hear terms like, my better half, or I better check with the missus, or I've been in the freezer for a few days. The implication of women's groups laughing at men is disturbing. Men find themselves in a bind. Men must portray strength and yet show sensitivity on call. If they express sensitivity, they are judged as weak. Although men and boys now have permission to cry, when they do, they are judged as pathetic. Mothers are often heard saying to their boys, it's okay to cry, all the time not being okay with it inside and hoping they won't embarrass themselves or their family. Eventually, masculinity became toxic. A toxic type of masculinity uses physical strength to get their needs met. They may not know how to communicate their needs, so they take things that are not theirs to take. They need to understand the consequences of something that doesn't belong to them. They need to understand and learn about consequences of their actions. Consequences are not the same as punishment. When you understand the consequences of your actions and you have someone to debrief the experience with, there's an opportunity to learn. Learning is not passive, it is very active. It's a myth that life will teach you lessons. Punishment, on the other hand, is based on judgment. For example, you might judge someone to be an angry person due to their type of behaviour. What does angry behaviour look like? Well, angry behaviour could be yelling at your partner instead of having a discussion. Impatience is a type of angry behaviour. Road rage is extreme angry behaviour. However, these examples of angry behaviour don't indicate the person is an angry person. It's a big difference. The person is different to the behaviour, and we can separate them. What you can do to resolve this conditioned response is to separate the person from the behaviour. Sure, people have used behaviour as an indicator of the character of the person, but when you judge your friend as an angry person, this is not true, this is inaccurate. Your friend might be expressing frustration by acting out, but that's not an indicator of the core of the person. One way of engaging with this idea is by asking yourself a deep philosophical question like, are criminals born or made? Your answer to that question will give you insight into your core beliefs. If your answer is that criminals are born, just consider if you've ever seen a newborn baby who's a criminal. The other idea to consider is that anger and behaviour have been regarded as the same. For example, I gave an invited address to a corporate group a few years ago, and I spoke about anger being an emotion and aggression or violence being the behaviour. My main point was that the emotion anger does not cause the violence. Sure, you can feel anger and act out, but that doesn't mean the anger and violence are the same thing. You can experience anger and feel the emotion inside yourself, which doesn't involve acting out. In this case, there's no harm done. The distinction is that you can feel anger and act out or not act out. The anger itself doesn't make you violent. There's no cause and effect there. The astonishing feedback that I received after this presentation was that I was advocating domestic violence. This was not the case at all. I was speaking about separating the emotion from the behaviour. It's amazing what people hear through their own filters and life experiences. And as you're listening to this podcast today, you may feel triggered by me presenting the male perspective instead of giving a balanced view. Although the purpose of this podcast is to present a male perspective. 90% of leaders that I've worked with for over 30 years are men. I feel privileged to understand men the way I do. I'm not suggesting that men are more important than women or have a harder time than women. I am presenting an alternative perspective that is not articulated very often. The first step towards developing healthy masculinity is to realise that many boys have been shamed for being born a boy. In days gone by, it was a case in many countries that girl babies were worthless. When I was a young girl, educators didn't see the point in educating girls because girls would just get married and have babies. The boys were worth educating because they were going to be the breadwinners and the providers for the family. These judgments are underlying assumptions and unrealistic expectations of policymakers and educators who set the agenda in a dichotomous world. Masculinity is important for the balance of evolution of humanity. My job, as I see it, is to present an alternative perspective. That is, to gain awareness into our underlying assumptions and unrealistic expectations of everyday life. For example, when a boy has been told all his life that men are angry and violent, he feels shame for being born a boy. As parents, when we're honest with ourselves and acknowledge our assumptions that your son is a certain way, you're judging him, and as a result, you develop underlying assumptions that communicate to him that he is a problem. His behaviour follows this unspoken communication. Using emotional strength as a framework to guide your parenting style starts with acknowledging your underlying assumptions about yourself. What are your beliefs? Are your assumptions that boys are harder to raise than girls? That boys are aggressive or violent? That boys don't listen? That boys can't find things? That men are sooks or wimps when man flu's mentioned? You might hear someone in your family calling your son a girl if they dare to show any emotion. You might hear Granddad saying, "You're a big boy now," which puts pressure on the boy to suppress his feelings. There are many dysfunctional ways of raising boys so that they grow into manhood feeling inadequate, wrong, or think the way to solve problems is by acting out. So step 2 is when parents take responsibility for raising sons and they raise them with shame and guilt, and then they blame them for being aggressive and disrespectful. This is the beginning of turning toxic masculinity around. It's never too late. When parents change, boys change. You can make a difference right now as you listen to this podcast. When your son comes home, doesn't matter how old or how young he is, change your attitude towards him. You will see the change in his response to you. It's immediate. It's amazing. It happens in the moment. Recently, I learned about being gracious at my cousin's funeral last week. When we were growing up, I remember him as kind-hearted and always looking after everyone. That is certainly the sentiment for 150 friends and family that attended the celebration of his life. His partner demonstrated how gracious humans can be. She acknowledged his first wife, the mother of his children. The mother died very young from cancer and left my cousin with 2 small children. My cousin's partner included the deceased wife in every part of the ceremony. She honoured his deceased wife by displaying photos of her and my cousin. She included her in all speeches and even told the grieving attendees that his ashes were to be laid with his deceased wife. This is the most gracious experience I have ever had. Her whole energy was devoted to her beloved partner who died unexpectedly in the night. When I expressed my appreciation for her graciousness, I heard her say that his deceased wife was part of him and she loved every part of him unconditionally. I was blown away by that perspective. My point here is that no matter what has gone before, no matter what hurt you've experienced, what betrayal you've gone through, no matter how you've been abandoned, there is room for being real in the world. You can make a difference by being yourself, believe it or not. This recent demonstration of my cousin's partner being herself at the celebration of his life was awesome to experience. It's another reminder we never stop learning. Step 3, right now you can change your attitude towards boys and men. Notice when you're blaming. Notice when the teacher is lenient with the girls and punishing the boys. Notice when you have unrealistic expectation of your man. You want him to be strong and provide for the family. You want him there to help you with the kids. You want him to listen to your frustrations. You want him to be sensitive to your needs. When he offers to help by hanging out the washing, he doesn't do it the right way. When he offers to do the vacuuming, he misses bits of dust on the carpet and you do it again. You complain that he doesn't help with the dishes. When he packs the dishwasher, he does it the wrong way. Notice your assumptions that he cannot multitask. He cannot find his keys. He doesn't cuddle you when you've been rejecting him for years. You can start this transformation right now by changing your attitude. How can connecting to emotion help? I felt the graciousness of my cousin's partner because I was in my body. A lot of people at that function would not even have noticed. You can't experience the depth of life if you're not in your body. Being in your body is an important step in learning how to feel again. And it's not easy. When I say being in my body, I'm referring to feeling the ache in my heart, the regret of not visiting my cousin more often throughout the years, the disappointment in myself for forgetting the things that are important in life, the joy of remembering how kind my cousin was. Being in your body is difficult at first, and with practice it becomes easier. Trust me. Why would we go to all this trouble to come back into our bodies when it hurts? That's a very good question. And the main reason is to be the best versions of ourselves. The way we do that is to experience the depth of life. Without feeling, our lives are boring, neutral, plain and dull. I suggest you've forgotten how to feel. You need to remember again. When you are in your body and feeling, you cannot hurt yourself or anyone else. I believe that connecting to emotion is fundamentally the most important action that you can take right now. What do healthy men look like? Healthy men are glorious to me. They are proud to be a man. Like all people, when men are in their bodies and feeling emotion, they are engaging, sensitive, honest. They don't play games. They are willing to work hard, and they practice improving their communication. I have found men wanting to learn how to be decent human beings. They are interested in their own development and the development of their loved ones. In my experience, men have connected to emotion at a deeper level than the stereotype suggests. It is an assumption that men are harder to work with around emotion than women. This has not been the case for me over 30 years of working with men. Work with men, leaders, business owners. I find men, like all people, defensive and protective at first. But when they learn the skills, they practice and develop quickly. From my perspective, men share at a deep level when they feel safe. And I find them very motivated to become the best versions of themselves. When they have trainer wheels on, they are clunky. They put effort in and most of them move pretty quickly. You might consider being real or even gracious when you can see your man is committed to a process that is very difficult. It's not for the faint-hearted, that's for sure. It takes courage to face yourself and look in the mirror. I have great respect for all of you who choose to go on that journey. Good on you, and keep going. It is well worth it. To recap, what is masculinity? For me, it's a healthy energy. Moving from toxic masculinity to healthy masculinity. For parents, be aware of shaming boys and men. 3 steps towards starting a journey of healthy masculinity. Step 1, realising that men have been shamed. Step 2, parents need to take responsibility for the parenting of boys. Step 3, change your attitude towards boys and men. How can connecting to emotion help? Well, when we're in our bodies and feeling, we cannot hurt ourselves or anyone else. What do healthy men look like? For me, healthy men are glorious, engaging, sensitive and honest. Your homework this week, for parents, notice your assumptions of your boy or boys. For partners, take yourself on and respond differently to your man. For men, see if you can come back into your body and feel sensations. For boys, see if you can feel sensations in your body. For fathers and boys, go out and hang out together. That's a really great thing to do. The next podcast is on a topic that is quite difficult and liberating. Free to speak. This is a conversation about speaking up. And we'll get into that speaking up is not acting out. See you next time.
Well, that's a wrap. The Emotion Connection is produced by Sharon Fay and her team at sharonfay.com. With a vision to help people feel, this is just one way we're spreading the word. Sharon Fay is an engaging speaker with a compelling message. Book her for your next conference to ensure a unique and memorable experience for your audience. We encourage you to engage with Sharon through the podcast. You can also email Sharon directly, sharon@sharonfay.com. We'd love to hear from you. The Emotion Connection Season 2, hosted by Sharon Fay. Visit sharonfay.com to learn more or book Sharon for your next event. See you next time.